Okay, so what I want to do now is show you how you can use your calculator to solve equations. Big change at A-level is when it comes to simultaneous equations like this and quadratic equations like this, there is an expectation, or rather there's an understanding that we've got calculators that will solve them, so it's okay to use them to solve them. At GCSE, we would always say you had to show your method, but then use your calculator to check. Well, specifically with simultaneous equations and quadratic equations, that is no longer necessary. I mean, don't get too excited. The examiners are very clever at asking questions which still require you to factorise and use the other techniques that we used to need to do these equations. Sorry, I'm doing this in school, so that's why there's a lot of noise in the background. Hope you can hear me. So firstly, normal GCSE simultaneous equations. So we go to menu, we go to equation, and we select simultaneous, so that's F1. Remember these buttons, this is not a touch sensitive screen, so we use the context function button. So in this case, simultaneous is F1. How many missing values? I've got 2, X and Y. And whatever I've got, I'd happen to have X and Y. The calculator only ever understands X and Y. So it's expecting me to type in equations in this form. Some X's and some Y's equal something. So if your equations aren't in that form, you've got to rearrange them first. Mine are. So I've got 4x plus 1y is 25. So I do 4xe, 1xe, 25xe. And then I've got 1x minus 3y is 16. So I do 1xe, minus 3xe, and 16xe. And then the next press gives me my solutions. So I've got that x is 7 and y is minus 3 as a solution. Simple as that. Okay, let's go on and solve a quadratic equation then. So again, here's an example of a quadratic equation. So menu, equation, sorry, I need to come out of here, don't I? There we go. So menu, equation, and this time this is a quadratic, which is an example of a polynomial. So I'm going to use F2 for polynomial. Degree, what's the highest power of x? Well, I've got x squared, it's a quadratic, so 2. And then it's expecting me to type it in this form. Some x squared, some x's, plus something equals 0. It's already lined up like that. I'm sure you're used to writing your quadratic equations in that form. So I'm going to do 3xe, minus 5xe, and minus 1xe. And then my next press will give me my solutions. And there they are. Now, it presents me the solutions in two ways. It gives me them as a rounded decimal, or it gives you them in surd form. And I'm sure you're aware that most of the time, surd form is preferable. So this first solution, 1.8471, is this, 5 plus root 37 over 6. And then if I use the cursor to move down to this solution, it gives me that in surd form, 5 minus root 37 over 6. And yeah, so that's how I can solve quadratic equations. Now, what the calculator doesn't do is it doesn't solve quadratic simultaneous equations like this problem here. So if we were asked, and you've done this at GCSE, if we're asked to solve those simultaneous equations, it doesn't do that for us. So with this one, I've got one of the equations written as x equals, so I'm just going to substitute that in here. So I need to work out what x squared is and substitute it in. And actually this is quite a nice one because the 36's cancel out. And I know that this is quite an easy one to factorise because you've just got a y outside a bracket. But I'm going to use the calculator anyway. I've already done it, but I'll just show you how I did it. So back to here. So I'm solving another quadratic. This one, I know it's y, but the calculator only knows about x, so I've got to stick with x. I'm sorry about that noise, but there we go. It's year 7 break time. I've got 5x squareds, 5xe, 24x's, and I've got no number, so I'm just going to do 0xe. So my solution, which calculator thinks are x values, but of course we've got y values, are 0 and minus 4.8, although minus 4.8 as a fraction is minus 24/5, which in some situations is easier. And then, of course, with my y values, I go back to my original x equals equation, substitute them in to get my x values. There's one x value for every y value. So the calculator won't solve problems like this, but you can use it within the solution to solve any quadratics that crop up along the way. Hope that's clear.